Okay, so I made a video talking about what you should do if you were unlucky enough to win the lottery. The post that I covered had a lot of good points that I would likely adopt, but it also had a lot of points that I would definitely steer clear from. Which got me thinking, what would I actually do in the scenario where I personally won the lottery? And so here we are. Today's video is going to be centered around that conversation. But before we get there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Reece, and this is going to be part 1 of 3 where I talk about what I would do with certain amounts of money if I were to win them playing the lottery. We're going to start low with a respectable $100,000 prize being cashed in. And just as a quick fun fact, for anyone watching this video living outside of Australia, if you gamble within Australia, you do not pay tax on your winnings, meaning I would be walking away with the full $100,000 cash sum. So to kickstart, I'm going to be upfront. I'm going to be completely truthful. $100,000 to me personally at this point in my life is not life-changing money. 10 years ago, definitely may have been a different kind of story where it would not be impossible, but would have definitely taken some time to build these kinds of savings. Where 100 grand would have absolutely boosted and significantly improved things like my ability to purchase a home, where the deposit would have been much more sizable, making the debt that much more sustainable back then. It would have definitely allowed me to purchase new gear, which I used to make these YouTube videos, where back then I had other interests and hobbies that I may have decided to make YouTube videos on, and who knows where the channel would be today if I was making videos covering those types of content. And 100 grand definitely could have gone a long way to beginning my investment journey. It's just that there's not a lot of variation there in where I would be able to allocate these funds. I guess the take home from this initial part of the conversation is that who knows where I would have been with my financial goals had it been back then compared to today. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about it in perspective from right now. I earn good money for what I do. I'm able to put away about 80% of my take-home pay as I live a relatively frugal lifestyle, and I have optimized my financials in a way that really does work effectively for myself. And just as a quick side note, if you were interested in learning about how I'm able to achieve this 80% savings rate, it won't be the same for everyone everywhere, but the fundamentals are the same nonetheless. I've linked videos down in the description below, which may be helpful to you if you haven't watched them before. They're things like my recaps and how I plan out my years based on what I'm projecting to earn for those years. Feel free to give those resources a watch if you're interested in watching them. And while you're at it, if I could quickly get you to hit that like and subscribe button, that would really be helpful. It really does go a long way for the channel, and it does not go unnoticed. Let's get into the juicy stuff. So with that context out of the way of me being relatively frugal and not necessarily needing access to these kinds of funds to continue living my life the way that I'm living it, I'm sure you can kind of see an idea forming of how I would go about allocating this money. To begin with, the full amount, the $100,000 prize sum, would be stuck into my offset bank account to minimize the interest that I'm currently paying on my outstanding debt. And once the funds are in that account, then I would start to consider what else I could be doing with this money, if anything at all. Let's assume that I'm not just boring and don't just stuff it all into one single bank account for that intended purpose. Let's say I actually allocate it towards some other things as well. What would I do? To be completely honest, I believe that I would look at this sum of money similar to how I look at being paid and how I'm paid bonuses. I would only allow myself to use 15% of this $100,000 figure, so it's $15,000, for leisure spending or luxury spending, as that is what I allow myself out of my own salary. You can learn more about that in my personal finance tracker video, which explains how to basically build a budget, explains how to kind of work with what's coming in and how you can purpose it for specific things. Again, I've linked it down below. The template's free. Feel free to use that as you wish. But like I said, the spending amount that I would allow myself would be about $15,000. And the first thing that I would most likely do out of that sum of money is upgrade the computer that you're looking at right behind me here. I built this back in 2014. I have used it almost every single day, minus when I travel for work or I'm away on a holiday. I've used it almost every single day. It contributes massively to keeping my sanity intact because I track a lot of things through it, and it's just a resource that I've used forever, and it's basically formed part of my life. So that would definitely get an uplift. I reckon it would be fair to say as well that I would probably take my partner on a nice holiday. I don't know where I would go, but it's something that would definitely be on the cards, because why not? That would be a nice little way to celebrate winning this kind of money. So taking off that $15,000 from that $100,000 win, that leaves me with $85,000 unallocated. Now, without a doubt, I have to be boring. I would still say that 50% at a bare minimum of that $100,000 win would be going into my offset. So let's minus 50,000 from 85,000. That leaves us with $35,000 currently unallocated. Now I'm someone who likes to diversify. So I would most likely be taking at least $5,000, which is 5% of the total winnings, and putting it into cryptocurrency. The two that I would probably put it between is Bitcoin and Ethereum at this point in time, because I have a decent amount of money in them and I am happy with those investments. So just building those portfolios a little bit more would be something that I would be happy to do. I would take another $10,000 out of that leftover 35,000 and invest it between my two favorite ETFs on the Australian share market, which is something that I'm not going to quote which ones they are. I'm sure you know what they are if you've seen any of my other videos, but the reason for that again is just to continue diversifying and basically building my portfolios, which gives me exposure to a few different markets, and I'll touch a bit more on that in a moment. But this now leaves me with $20,000 remaining, and honestly, I have no idea what I would do with it if I wasn't going to stick it in my offset, invest it into crypto, or invest it into the share market. Truthfully, I don't really need access to that money, so therefore it would most likely just continually be put into a investment vessel which allows me to build wealth over time. Maybe I would consider giving some of it away. Maybe I would treat it as I would treat a bonus being paid from my employer, which I have some very specific rules that I follow. Maybe I'd say stuff it and just spend it as well. Like I say, I truthfully do not know what I would do with this remaining amount of money. I guess the way to end how I would allocate it is that I would assess what I really need at the time, what I really want to do with it, and I would pick one of those options, and all of them realistically are going to be beneficial, other than the spending it component, which if I get a little bit of enjoyment out of it, so be it. And this is where I really want to carry the discussion forward now, where lots of people would say, just live your life. Spending 15% of that $100,000 sum is nothing. You're just going to lock away that money for the sake of building wealth in the future, and you're going to be sacrificing enjoyment and fun now, and winning a sum of money like that should allow you to live your life and enjoy it in a way that you want to. The word people might use for what I plan to do with it is boring, which fair enough to some people. I completely understand how that could look, but personally, this is my fun and enjoyment. I really love investing money. I really love managing it to a point that allows me to live a very comfortable lifestyle, one that makes me not worry too much when we see things like economic downturn, interest rates rising, things that definitely would rustle a lot of other people's jimmies. I love that saying, and that's why I had to throw it in there. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I really enjoy doing this with that kind of money, and $100,000 is something that, like I said, it wouldn't be life-changing, so just making everything a little bit easier is the way I would most likely allocate it. In my life, I really don't need anything in particular other than more time, and time is something that $100,000 is not going to easily buy me. I don't need anything physical whatsoever, and my lifestyle does not demand a lot of spending. So realistically, spending that money on things that I do not need would just be wasteful in my eyes. Personally, my current end goal was described in a simple sentence written in this book here, and that's why it's on display today, The Psychology of Money. The passage from the book goes like this: the highest form of wealth is having the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. And $100,000 is not going to give me that. But focusing on using that money and purposing it to achieve the goal is exactly what I would be doing with that sum of money. Now, if you have enjoyed today's video, definitely like and subscribe down below. You're not going to want to miss out on part 2, which we're going to bump these rookie numbers of $100,000 up to 10 million. And then from there, we're going to go up again to 100 million. I think those videos are going to be much more interesting in what I do with them and why I do what I do with them. Stick around to find out if you're interested. If you've made it this far, thank you for giving me the time out of your day, and I hope you enjoy your day. I hope you have a good week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.